1980s began, America stood at a crossroad, grappling with high inflation, soaring unemployment, and a crisis of confidence. Jimmy Carter's presidency had marked an epic economic struggle and foreign challenges with policies, leaving many Americans eager for change. Entering Ronald Reagan, who had a vision for economic change, later known as Reaganomics, and offered a stark contrast to Carter's approach. Good morning. My name is Gabriella Bonardi, and this is how Reaganomics changed the U.S. economy. This leads to my research question. How did Reaganomics contribute to economic growth along with job creation in the United States during Ronald Reagan's presidency from 1981 to 1989? With this question comes three claims. Reaganomics contributed to economic expansion through tax cuts and deregulation. Policies encouraged job creation and business expansion. Economic expansion. Reaganomics was President Reagan's economic policy planned to focus on stimulating growth through supply-sided strategies like tax cuts, deregulations, and reduced government spending on special programs and social programs, and a tight change on inflation. For example, according to the economist William A. Neskanen, he states that Reagan pushed for deregulations, which in turn removed restrictions on industries like oil and telecommunications. Job creation. During this era, the U.S. economy experienced a notable rebound in job creation and a steady decline in unemployment rates after a deep recession caused by Jimmy Carter. As you can see on these graphs, Ronald Reagan had a 16.5 million job creation through his presidency, while Jimmy Carter only had a 9.8 million. And also, with rates of employment yearly, it was a 15.5%, while only Jimmy Carter's was 10.1%, which is a 5% increase. Also, as you can see on this graph, unemployment and inflation significantly decreased after Reagan was put into office. Business expansion. One of the core goals of Reaganomics was to stimulate business investment and expansion by reducing government intervention and promoting free market competition. According to the economist Martin Feldstein, he argued that the Economic Recovery Tax Act of 1981 encouraged businesses to invest more in capital equipment and expand on operations. While Reaganomics spurred in economic growth in the 1980s, it also produced long-term negative consequences, particularly in terms of social mobility and long-term effects. One of the key policies contributing to this inequality was the steep reduction in the top marginal tax rate from 70% in 1980 to 28% in 1988. According to the economists Thomas Piketty and Emilio says, these tax changes disproportionately changed and increased the tax income for the top 1%, widening the wealth gap, which for the bottom 90% left them wondering, is this fair? As provided of the College Board stimulus, Colin Powell once said, "And each life given in the name of liberty is a life that has not been lost in vain." This quote reminds us that progress must always be measured not only by numbers, but by the people and by the lives that have been affected in this way. Reaganomics undeniably contributed to the period of economic expansion, creating millions of jobs and fueling business growth. For money, it symbolized a renewed belief in the American dream through free enterprise and lower taxes. But as we have seen, Powell challenges us and to ask, who truly benefited from this type of liberty and why? Understanding Reaganomics means recognizing the triumphs and trade-offs and continuing to shape the economic policy with not only justice, but pride in mind. Thank you.
All right, two questions for you. First up, what evidence did you gather that you didn't use, and then why did you choose not to use it?
I gathered evidence on Wall Street and how the stocks crashed and kept growing and crashed again. And I didn't use it because I felt like it would create a bias within my presentation.
All right. And what additional questions kind of popped up as you worked your way along through the project?
Some additional questions were things with war and taxes within the top 1% and how the top 1% benefited beneficially more than the bottom 90% within this era.